I'm gonna be honest, I hate just about everything there is to do with Adobe. I mean, their business model is atrocious, their apps are poorly designed and poorly optimized, there's some hardware-specific features that are always missing, and so over the past couple of years I've tended to look down on Adobe products. That is until Project Indigo came out. Project Indigo is Adobe's iPhone-exclusive photography app. Adobe never does Apple exclusives, but I downloaded it, I tried it out, and holy frickin' moly, we need to talk about this. So we'll first go standard pros and cons, but then we'll also look at how Project Indigo fits into the greater scope of camera apps that are available on the App Store. And I'll also detail what's my preferred way to use it. Alright, so starting off with the most obvious thing, oh my god, the design is actually tolerable! And you can clearly tell that Adobe saw that one of the best ways to make a design that instantly looks good is to just copy the competitor. The layout of Project Indigo is extremely similar to the iOS 18 camera app. I mean, you got your huge capture button, photos on the left, switching camera modes above that, your camera lenses above that, the flip button is on the right side, and that also has the side effect of this camera app being instantly familiar to anyone who downloads it. Like, I showed my friend the app one time when we were at the beach, no learning curve required. Just a couple of things though. First of all, I wonder how Adobe felt seeing the iOS 26 camera app get revealed before they launched Project Indigo. Like, well, we got 10 days to roll out and we are cooked. Additionally, in this bottom bar, you can flip between the photo and night modes, but you can also do the same thing at the top right. Why are there two separate places? Like, remove that option at the top right and just replace it with settings. It can't be that hard. But you know what? That's pretty minor, pretty negligible. What isn't is the detail processing. Adobe's making it very clear with this app that they are going all out on the processing, which is a much different approach than Apple takes. Apple uses a sort of baseline post-processing, something very minimal, very inoffensive, so that any risk of your photo having some weird artifacts or weird details is mitigated. Adobe likes to take that risk, and that risk means that in ideal situations, you're gonna get shots like this and this. Holy crap. It sounds really corny, but I genuinely look at these photos and think, man, that was shot on a phone? I can't believe it. And the processing is so aggressive that Adobe doesn't even feel the need to shoot photos at 48 megapixels. But it doesn't even matter, because even if you zoom in to that 12 megapixel shot, you're still gonna get a result that's fine. Hey wait, speaking of zooming in, one of the best features of Project Indigo is something called super resolution. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. And yes, if you couldn't already tell, I am obsessed with this movie. Somebody help, it's taking over my life, please. Basically, if you zoom in digitally when you're taking a photo, then Adobe can apply the super resolution effect. And so it'll upscale the photo, it'll smoothen everything out, it'll remove all the artifacts, and you'll get results like this and like this. These are my own shots, no extra gear used, no editing, this is straight out of Project Indigo. And holy crap. Additionally, super resolution also means you can finally get a decent shot of the moon. iPhone users, rejoice. But if you want to go on the more experimental side, you can enable taking photos as DNGs, or RAW, and you can try out two of Adobe's experimental features, which are AI denoising and removing reflections. Yes, this is AI tampering with your photo. No, not everyone will like this. But sometimes, from personal experience, like I'm using a circular polarizer on my phone right now, you can't remove all the reflections from a glass surface. And so in cases where it's crucial to see everything behind a glass surface clearly, your polarizer may not be able to do the trick and you may not end up with a great result. But the reduce reflection feature in Indigo is insane. Adobe already had this feature in Lightroom and they brought it over to Project Indigo. And literally you just tap a button, it'll analyze your photo, and once it's done, you can see your original photo, the photo with the reflections removed, and the specific reflections that it removed. So it's not just the accuracy, it's the transparency of it all as well. That's amazing! Like, I just took photos for an event using my phone and using Project Indigo, and without the remove reflections feature, I would have been fried. I would have said my goodbyes. The AI denoising is also pretty impressive, but Adobe's processing already gets rid of a lot of noise. So it kinda doesn't really matter. Since Project Indigo is, I'm saying this for the billionth time, an Adobe app, there's a button where you can directly open this photo in Lightroom on your phone to edit it a bit further. And of course, if you take a raw image, editing in Lightroom is going to be even better. I also want to give a little shout out to the platter at the top, which houses the histogram, shutter speed, ISO, because not only is it really pretty, there are so many times where I don't even notice that the histogram is there until I specifically want to look at it. That is exactly how it should be designed. There should be as few items as possible, limiting your view of the viewfinder. And I think the histogram nails it. Nice job, Adobe. But a nice job can't be said for everything, because now we get into the cons. On the flip side of the aggressive processing, we also have to look at color. And color processing is a huge hit or miss. Like, there's some times where my photo will have a green tint, it'll be a little bit too cool, and don't even get me started on taking photos of faces. I can't speak for all skin tones, but it doesn't seem like Project Indigo works well with brown skin tones. I mean, especially mine, it just makes me look orange. I would like to clarify, this is not how I actually look. This video is a much more accurate representation. Project Indigo takes photos in HDR, and I'm fine with that. HDR photos can look really great if done right. It's just that whether this HDR effect gets applied or not is a shot in the dark. Oh wait, yeah, it's a shot in the dark, because if you're shooting in the dark, you're gonna need HDR. And it seems like the HDR effect fails in daylight scenarios, which is the main place where you want an HDR effect. The electronic image stabilization in Project Indigo really needs some work. Even if you move your phone around just a little bit while taking a photo, your image is going to appear shaky. Also, because of the way that Project Indigo handles color profiles, when you view your photos in the Photos app, sometimes you'll encounter a bug where the photo has an unbearable pink tint, and you'll especially see this if you try editing your photo. Which is why if you're trying to edit, you should stick to Lightroom. When you use the experimental features, your images will be converted to a JPEG. Whereas if you were to edit them in Lightroom on a desktop, they would stay as a DNG. And the final con, if you swipe up out of the app before your photo is finished processing, if you go back in, that photo is gone, like sayonara, like send your prayers. Okay, finally, pros and cons are finished. I'm sorry, I know I ramble. But now we need to look at how Project Indigo fits into the greater scope of camera apps. First of all, the app is photography only, no video. Second of all, no, I don't think you should use this as your main camera app. The color processing, speed, stabilization are all way too unreliable for daily shots. And I think you're much better off using something like the default camera app for that situation. I think Project Indigo mainly excels in detail retention, especially in zoom shots. And so Project Indigo, as of right now, is for those moments where you have the time to experiment with really taking a great shot. Like, if you're just taking a photo here and there on the move, no, I don't think it's worth it. But if you have the time to sit down and really play around with the app to fine-tune your shot, absolutely use it. But I really appreciate how Project Indigo at least has a clear purpose, and that it can more or less deliver on the promise that it makes. Now, how do I think you should set this app up? There isn't really much to set up, but there are a few ground rules. First of all, deciding whether you want to take shots in JPEG only or JPEG plus DNG. If you're the type of person who will take the photos out of this app, put it into a professional editing software, and fine-tune it perfectly to make it exactly how you'd like, then DNG all the way. And DNG will also allow you to use the remove reflections and the AI denoising tools. If you don't want to do any of that, just use JPEG only. You'll save a ton of space, and you'll get a decent shot. Make sure you keep your phone as still as possible when you're taking the photo, because as we covered earlier, stabilization is not the best. Make sure up at the top, you swipe to the right and you turn on the grid, level, and overexposure peaking. These will help you align, frame, and expose your shots. Extremely helpful. And that's about all there is to it. Of course, it's important to note that Project Indigo is still on version 1.0.2, meaning it's still an infant of an app. And so I really hope that Adobe will double down on this app and make it truly something incredible. I have hope for now. But yeah, that's it for this video, so thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and also comment down below what you thought, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!